Right now, as you lie still, trillions of tiny creatures are alive inside you. They coat your skin, fill your gut, drift through your breath, and outnumber the cells of your own body by 10 to 1. You are not a single organism, but a living world, a vast ecosystem of invisible life that has journeyed with humanity since the very beginning. Tonight, in this sleep documentary, we explore the sleepy science of microbes, and let these gentle facts help you fall asleep fast as the hidden universe within you quietly unfolds. Tonight, we journey into the microscopic realm that shapes everything from the soil beneath forests to the depths of your own body in this documentary for sleep. Microbes are the oldest, most numerous, and most essential forms of life on Earth, yet we rarely notice them at all. This is Science for Sleep, where the smallest truths become a lullaby. Welcome to Drowsy Discovery. Over the next 2 hours, over 100 gentle facts will drift through the invisible kingdoms that surround and sustain you. There is nothing to memorize, nothing to remember. Just listen and let your mind wander through a world too small to see, but too vast to ignore. Have you ever wondered what lives on your skin right now, or how the bacteria in your gut might be shaping your mood? You are not alone. If these soothing facts bring you peace, consider subscribing to join our community of curious sleepers, one sleepy soul at a time. Now, let your body settle. Let your breath slow. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest, and know that with every exhale you are surrounded by invisible companions who have been part of life on Earth for billions of years. Let us begin. Microbes are the oldest forms of life on Earth, appearing over 3.5 billion years ago. Long before the first dinosaur walked, long before the first fish swam, microbes had already been flourishing on this planet for aeons. They emerged in a world of volcanic fury and primordial oceans when the sky was choked with carbon dioxide and the land was barren rock. These tiny pioneers needed no oxygen to survive, thriving instead on the chemical energy released from minerals and the faint warmth of the young sun. For nearly 3 billion years, they were the only life on Earth, quietly experimenting with the chemistry of existence, developing the pathways that would give rise to every living thing. When you look at a tree or your own hand, you are looking at the distant descendants of those ancient microbes, still carrying echoes of their innovations. They invented life as we know it, in utter silence, with no witness but the stars. A single teaspoon of healthy soil contains more microbes than there are people on Earth. If you were to hold a small spoonful of garden soil in your palm, you would be cradling a population that dwarfs all of humanity combined. Billions of bacteria, fungi, and other microscopic creatures live in that tiny handful, each one breaking down dead leaves, recycling nutrients, and making the soil fertile for plants to grow. This hidden city beneath your feet is more complex than any human metropolis, with predators and prey, partnerships and rivalries, all unfolding in dark spaces between grains of sand. The earthy smell you notice after rain is the scent of chemicals released by soil bacteria, a perfume that has greeted every generation who ever worked the land. Without this invisible workforce, forests would choke on fallen leaves and farms would turn to dust. The ground you walk upon is quietly alive in ways you cannot see. Your body contains roughly 38 trillion bacterial cells, slightly more than your own human cells. Right now, as you lie here listening, you are outnumbered within your own skin. The bacteria that call your body home form a population so vast that if each one were a star, they would fill several galaxies. Most live peacefully in your gut, but others have claimed your mouth, your nostrils, and the spaces between your toes. They are not invaders but companions, many essential to your well-being, helping you digest food, training your immune system, and influencing how you feel. The boundary between you and them is blurrier than it might seem, for their genes are active inside you and their chemicals flow through your bloodstream. You are less a single organism and more a walking ecosystem, a collaboration between human cells and microbial ones refined over millions of years. In the most literal sense, you are never alone. Bacteria were the first organisms to produce oxygen, transforming Earth's atmosphere forever. The air you breathe tonight is a gift from ancient bacteria, a byproduct of their hunger for sunlight that changed life on this planet. Before these tiny pioneers began releasing oxygen, the atmosphere was a toxic soup of gases that would have killed any modern creature in moments. But as cyanobacteria spread through the oceans, capturing sunlight and splitting water molecules, they exhaled a waste gas that would become the breath of all complex life. It took hundreds of millions of years for that oxygen to build up, first rusting the iron in the seas and then slowly filling the sky. This transformation was not gentle. It poisoned countless species that had thrived in an oxygen-free world. Yet from that catastrophe came conditions for animals, plants, and eventually you. Every breath connects you to those ancient microbes. The atmosphere itself is their monument. Microbes can survive in boiling hot springs, frozen Antarctic ice, and even the vacuum of space. Where humans see hostile wastelands, microbes see home. In the scalding pools of Yellowstone, where water bubbles at temperatures that would cook flesh in minutes, rainbow-colored mats of bacteria thrive, drawing energy from sulfur and heat. In the frozen valleys of Antarctica, where temperatures plunge far below freezing, microbes sleep within the ice, waiting for the briefest thaw. Some have even survived the void of space, clinging to spacecraft and enduring radiation and extreme cold for months. Scientists call these hardy survivors extremophiles, but to the microbes themselves, these are simply conditions they have adapted to over billions of years. Their resilience hints at possibilities beyond our planet, raising questions about whether life might exist on distant moons or frozen Mars. The toughest creatures on Earth are invisible to the eye. The human gut microbiome weighs approximately 2 kilograms, about the same as your brain. Deep inside your abdomen, coiled within meters of intestine, lives a community of microbes that weighs as much as the organ you think with. This microbial mass is not passive ballast. It is metabolically active, producing vitamins, breaking down fibers your enzymes cannot touch, and sending chemical signals through your body. Researchers call the gut the second brain, not because it thinks in words, but because it communicates constantly with the brain in your skull, influencing mood, appetite, and sleep. The gut and brain developed from the same tissue in the embryo, and they remain connected by the vagus nerve, a highway of signals running from belly to brainstem. When you feel butterflies before a stressful moment or calm after a good meal, you are feeling this conversation. The mind is not separate from the body. It is woven through it. Some bacteria can divide every 20 minutes, meaning one cell could become billions overnight. A single bacterium, smaller than a speck of dust, can become a teeming colony in the time it takes you to sleep. Under ideal conditions, some species split in two every 20 minutes, each daughter cell soon dividing again, doubling until the numbers become meaningless. By morning, that one cell could have descendants numbering in the billions, a population explosion no animal could match. This rapid reproduction is both blessing and challenge. It allows beneficial bacteria to recover after illness, but lets harmful ones spread with terrifying speed. The same gift of rapid division enables bacteria to evolve so quickly, adapting to new environments within days rather than millennia. When you take an antibiotic, survivors may carry mutations that let them resist it, and those multiply fast. Life at the microbial scale moves at a pace that makes human generations seem glacial. And from the astonishing speed of bacterial life, we turn now to the ancient origins of these microscopic pioneers. Cyanobacteria, among the earliest microbes, invented the process we call photosynthesis. Somewhere in the ancient oceans, a tiny microbe discovered how to eat sunlight. Cyanobacteria were the first organisms to harness the energy of the sun and use it to split water molecules, releasing oxygen and storing power in the bonds of sugar. This invention, which we call photosynthesis, was one of the most important moments in life's history, unlocking a nearly limitless source of energy that would fuel the rise of plants, forests, and every creature that depends on them. The green color of leaves comes from chloroplasts, tiny structures that are descendants of ancient cyanobacteria, swallowed long ago and put to work. Even now, cyanobacteria continue their craft in oceans, lakes, and damp soil, contributing a significant share of the oxygen you breathe. They are the inventors of the green world, and their legacy surrounds you. The light of the sun still flows through their descendants. Before cyanobacteria, Earth's atmosphere contained almost no free oxygen at all. The early Earth was a world without breath. For the first 2 billion years, the atmosphere held almost no free oxygen, just a haze of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane that would suffocate any modern animal. Life in those days had to make do with other reactions, pulling energy from sulfur, iron, or hydrogen instead of the oxygen we take for granted. The sky was likely tinged with orange, and the oceans were green with dissolved iron. When cyanobacteria began to release oxygen as a waste product, it was a pollution event on a planetary scale, slowly poisoning organisms that had never needed it and rusting the iron out of the seas. The banded iron formations in ancient rocks today are the scars of that slow transition, layers of rust laid down over millions of years. The air you breathe tonight is the result of that silent revolution. The Great Oxygenation Event, caused by microbes, was the largest extinction in Earth's history. Roughly 2.4 billion years ago, the oxygen produced by cyanobacteria finally overwhelmed the chemical sinks absorbing it, and the gas began to accumulate in the atmosphere. For the anaerobic organisms that had ruled Earth until then, oxygen was a deadly poison, corroding their cells and disrupting their chemistry. The result was a mass extinction that dwarfs anything that came after, wiping out countless species that had thrived for billions of years. This event, called the oxygen catastrophe, was the price the planet paid for the air we now breathe. Yet from that devastation came opportunity. New life evolved that could not only tolerate oxygen, but use it to unlock far more energy, paving the way for complex cells and eventually animals. The oxygen crisis was both ending and beginning. The breath you take tonight was born from ancient ruin. Stromatolites, rocky structures built by ancient microbes, are among the oldest fossils ever found. In some of the oldest rocks on Earth, you can find strange layered domes that look almost like frozen waves. These are stromatolites, the fossilized remains of microbial communities that built up layer upon layer over millions of years, trapping sediment and cementing it with their sticky films. The oldest stromatolites date back 3.5 billion years, to a time when life had only just begun to experiment with survival. Each thin layer in these rocks represents countless generations of cyanobacteria, quietly growing, dying, and being buried by their descendants. To hold a piece of stromatolite is to hold a record of life older than any mountain or ocean basin. These humble structures are the earliest clear evidence that living things were shaping their world, leaving monuments that would outlast everything else. They are the signatures of Earth's first builders. Living stromatolites still exist today in shallow coastal waters of Australia. On the western coast of Australia, in the shallow waters of Shark Bay, something remarkable survives from the deep past. Living stromatolites grow there still, built by the same kind of microbial communities that dominated Earth billions of years ago. The water is so salty and the conditions so harsh that few predators can survive to graze on them, allowing these ancient formations to persist. If you were to wade out to see them, you would find dark, lumpy mounds rising from the seabed, warm to the touch under the Australian sun, quietly photosynthesizing as their ancestors did when dinosaurs were unimaginable futures. Scientists travel from around the world to study these living fossils, hoping to understand how early life shaped our planet. They are windows into a time before animals, before plants, before anything but microbes and rock and sea. The past is still breathing in those waters. Microbes were the only life on Earth for nearly 3 billion years before complex organisms appeared. For an almost unimaginable stretch of time, the only living things on this planet were single cells drifting in ancient seas and clinging to primordial rocks. 3 billion years passed with nothing but microbes, a span so long that if Earth's history were compressed into a single day, complex life would not appear until the final hours before midnight. During those lonely eons, microbes were inventing the biochemistry that would eventually power every creature to come. They experimented with photosynthesis, respiration, and nitrogen fixation, building the chemical toolkit of life through trial and error on a planetary scale. When finally a microbe swallowed another and both survived, forming the first complex cell, it was a partnership built on billions of years of microbial innovation. Everything that followed owes its existence to that patient prelude. We are the latecomers. Some ancient bacteria became trapped inside larger cells and evolved into mitochondria. Roughly 2 billion years ago, a larger cell engulfed a smaller bacterium, but instead of digesting it, both survived. Over countless generations, the two became inseparable, the smaller one providing energy in exchange for shelter and nutrients. That ancient captive evolved into what we now call mitochondria, the tiny powerhouses found in nearly every complex cell on Earth. This event, known as endosymbiosis, was one of the most important moments in the history of life, giving rise to all the energy-hungry organisms that would follow, from fungi to fish to you. The mitochondria in your cells still carry their own small ring of DNA, a relic of their bacterial past that they inherited from that original ancestor. Every time you move, think, or breathe, you are powered by the descendants of that ancient partnership. Your energy comes from a friendship older than the mountains. Every cell in your body contains mitochondria, the descendants of ancient bacteria. Right now, as you listen, trillions of mitochondria are at work inside you, converting the food you ate into the energy your cells need to function. Each one is a tiny factory, burning oxygen and sugar to produce a molecule called ATP, the universal fuel of life. Without them, your muscles could not contract, your neurons could not fire, and your heart would stop within seconds. These organelles are found in almost every cell of your body, sometimes hundreds or thousands per cell, depending on how much energy that cell requires. Your heart cells are especially rich in mitochondria, humming with activity every moment of your life. They divide and multiply on their own schedule, separate from the rest of the cell, a reminder that they were once independent beings. You are powered by a swarm of ancient symbionts. They have never left you. And as you rest with these thoughts of ancient life, there is no need to hold on to any of them. Let the knowledge of these patient microbes drift through you like a slow current, rising and falling with each breath. Your body carries their legacy, quietly, without effort. Rest now. Archaea, a distinct domain of microbes, thrive in environments once thought impossible for life. When scientists first discovered archaea, they assumed they were just another kind of bacteria, but closer study revealed something astonishing. Archaea are as different from bacteria as both are from plants and animals. They form their own domain of life, a separate branch on the tree that diverged billions of years ago. Many archaea thrive in places that would kill almost anything else, from boiling acid pools to the crushing darkness of the deep ocean floor. Their cell membranes are built differently, more resilient to heat and pressure, allowing them to survive where others cannot. Yet archaea are not only found in extreme places. Many live quietly in soil, in the ocean, and even inside you. They remind us that life is far more diverse and adaptable than we once imagined. The world is full of hidden kingdoms we are only now beginning to explore. Some archaea live in hydrothermal vents where temperatures exceed 100 degrees Celsius. Deep beneath the ocean, where volcanic heat meets frigid water, hydrothermal vents spew superheated fluid rich in minerals and chemicals. It is one of the harshest environments on Earth: pitch black, crushing pressure, and temperatures hot enough to melt lead in places. Yet life thrives there. And at the heart of these oasis communities are archaea that have evolved to withstand conditions that would destroy most organisms. Some of these thermophiles, as they are called, cannot survive at normal temperatures. They need the heat to keep their enzymes working properly. Scientists believe that life itself may have begun in such extreme environments, nurtured by the warmth of the early Earth's volcanic vents. The archaea living there today may be our closest link to those earliest ancestors. Life was born in fire, and some of it never left. Other archaea survive in salt concentrations that would kill almost any other organism. In salt flats and hypersaline lakes where the water is so saturated that crystals form on every surface, archaea called halophiles flourish in conditions that would shrivel most living things. These salt-loving microbes have evolved special proteins and cellular machinery that function only in extreme brine, and some even require salt to survive. The vivid pink and red colors of certain salt ponds come from pigments these archaea produce to protect themselves from the intense sunlight. If you have ever seen aerial photographs of salt evaporation ponds, glowing in shades of crimson and rose, you have seen the work of halophilic archaea, painting the landscape with impossible hues. They turn hostile chemistry into a living canvas. In places where nothing else can live, these remarkable organisms paint the barren land with vibrant life. Archaea in your gut help break down food that your own enzymes cannot digest. Hidden among the trillions of bacteria in your gut, a smaller but important population of archaea goes about its quiet work. These ancient organisms specialize in breaking down certain compounds that neither your own cells nor the bacteria can handle, fermenting leftover material and producing gases as a byproduct. One of the most common archaea in the human gut is a methanogen, a creature that generates methane as it feeds. While their numbers are modest compared to bacteria, their role in the ecosystem of your intestines is significant, helping to keep the complex chemistry of digestion running smoothly. Without them, some foods would pass through you without yielding all their nutrients. Your gut is a quiet collaboration, a partnership of bacteria, archaea, and your own cells all working together in harmony. Ancient life still nourishes you. Methanogens, a type of archaea, produce methane and live in oxygen-free environments. In places where oxygen never reaches, from the mud at the bottom of swamps to the deep layers of your intestine, methanogens thrive by turning hydrogen and carbon dioxide into methane gas. This ancient metabolism predates the rise of oxygen in Earth's atmosphere, a relic from a time when the world was ruled by anaerobes. Methanogens are found in rice paddies, in the guts of termites and cattle, and in the sediments of lakes and oceans, quietly releasing methane that bubbles up to the surface. On a global scale, they contribute to the natural cycling of carbon and influence the chemistry of the atmosphere. Scientists study them not only to understand Earth's past, but also to imagine life on other worlds, where methane might signal the presence of living things. They are among the most ancient metabolisms still operating. The breath of the deep past escapes in every bubble. And from these extremophiles of the microbial world, we now turn to the communities that live within us. Your skin is home to over 1,000 different species of bacteria. The surface of your body is a living landscape, a vast terrain of hills and valleys where over 1,000 species of bacteria have made their home. Every square centimeter of your skin hosts millions of these tiny inhabitants, nestled in the folds of your fingerprints, the creases of your elbows, and the pores of your face. They form communities that vary from place to place, adapting to the moisture, temperature, and chemistry of each region. The bacteria on your forehead thrive in the oils your skin produces, while those on your forearm prefer drier conditions. Together, they form a living shield that helps protect you from harmful invaders, competing for resources, and leaving little room for pathogens to take hold. Your skin is not just a barrier, it is a thriving ecosystem, teeming with life you cannot see. You are never truly alone in this quiet world. The bacteria on your face differ from those on your hands, creating unique microbial landscapes. If you could see your skin at the microbial level, you would find that no two regions are alike. The bacteria living on your cheeks are different from those on your chin, and both are distinct from the communities on your palms or the soles of your feet. Each area of your body offers a unique environment with its own temperature, moisture level, and chemical composition, and the bacteria have sorted themselves accordingly. Your forehead, rich in sebaceous glands, hosts oil-loving species, while your underarms, warm and moist, favor different kinds entirely. Even the left and right sides of your body may harbor slightly different populations. This diversity is a form of protection, making it harder for any single harmful species to dominate the whole. Your body is a patchwork of microbial nations, each with its own distinct character. Your belly button may harbor species found nowhere else on your body. Tucked away in the small hollow of your navel, a community of bacteria thrives in conditions found nowhere else on your skin. Scientists studying the belly button microbiome have discovered a surprising diversity there, with some individuals hosting species so rare that researchers had never encountered them before. The navel is a warm, sheltered environment, less disturbed by washing or friction than other parts of the body, allowing unusual species to persist. One study found over 2,000 different types of bacteria in a sample of human navels, with each person's collection being remarkably unique. The bacteria living there have little impact on your health, quietly going about their business in a world of their own. Your belly button is a small wilderness, a forgotten corner of the body that life has claimed. Even the overlooked places have stories. Beneficial skin bacteria help protect you by competing with harmful microbes for space. The bacteria that live on your skin are not just passive residents, they are active defenders of their territory. By occupying space and consuming the nutrients available on your skin, beneficial bacteria leave little room for harmful invaders to establish themselves. Some produce antimicrobial compounds that actively inhibit the growth of pathogens, creating a chemical barrier as well as a physical one. This competition is constant and fierce, a silent war fought across the landscape of your body every moment of every day. When you wash your skin too aggressively or use harsh antibacterial products, you may inadvertently disrupt this delicate balance, giving opportunistic pathogens a chance to move in. Your skin's microbiome is a partnership, a community of allies that has evolved alongside you. They protect you simply by being there. The scent of your body is largely produced by bacteria breaking down compounds in your sweat. Fresh sweat is nearly odorless, a simple mixture of water, salt, and a few other compounds. It is only when bacteria on your skin begin to break down certain molecules in that sweat that distinctive smells emerge. The bacteria in your underarms are particularly active in this regard, feasting on fatty acids and proteins and releasing volatile compounds as waste products. Different species of bacteria produce different odors, which is why the scent of one person's sweat can be so different from another's. This microbial signature is so unique that some researchers have suggested it could be used for identification, much like a biological fingerprint. The smell that follows a long day is not your body failing. It is the evidence of a thriving ecosystem at work. Your scent is a quiet collaboration between you and your microbes. Your mouth contains over 700 species of bacteria, forming complex communities. The inside of your mouth is a world unto itself, a warm, moist cave where over 700 species of bacteria have taken up residence. They cling to your teeth, coat your tongue, and line the soft tissues of your cheeks, forming communities that interact in intricate ways. Some bacteria thrive on the sugars in your food, while others feed on the waste products of their neighbors, creating chains of dependency that span the entire oral ecosystem. The balance of these communities affects everything from your breath to your risk of cavities and gum disease. When you brush your teeth, you are not sterilizing your mouth, but rather managing the population, keeping the harmful species in check while allowing the beneficial ones to flourish. Your mouth is a garden that requires tending. The microbes there have been with you since your first breath. The bacteria in your mouth can form biofilms that protect them from antibiotics and immune cells. When bacteria in your mouth band together, they can build structures called biofilms, thin layers of cells embedded in a sticky matrix that clings to surfaces like teeth and gums. Within these biofilms, bacteria are shielded from the chemicals you use to clean your mouth and even from your own immune system. The plaque that forms on your teeth is a biofilm, a cooperative fortress that allows bacteria to thrive in conditions that would otherwise destroy them. Removing biofilms requires physical disruption, which is why brushing and flossing remain essential even in an age of advanced mouthwashes. Once established, a biofilm can become a persistent source of infection or decay. The bacteria inside work together, sharing nutrients and signaling molecules, behaving almost like a single organism. They are stronger together than they could ever be alone. And from the surfaces of your body, we descend now into the deeper world of the gut. Your gut microbiome contains the highest concentration of microbes anywhere in your body. Deep within the coils of your intestines lives the densest microbial community in your entire body. Trillions of bacteria, along with smaller numbers of archaea, fungi, and viruses, crowd together in the warm darkness of your gut, forming an ecosystem more complex than any rainforest. The concentration of life there is staggering, with some estimates suggesting that a single gram of intestinal content contains more bacteria than there are people on Earth. These microbes are not idle passengers. They are active participants in your digestion, breaking down fibers, producing vitamins, and training your immune system to distinguish friend from foe. The gut is sometimes called a forgotten organ because its microbial inhabitants perform functions as vital as any tissue you were born with. You carry a hidden world inside you, quietly sustaining you. The diversity of your gut bacteria may influence your mood and mental health. Researchers are discovering that the bacteria in your gut do far more than help you digest food. They may also shape how you feel. Studies have found links between the diversity of the gut microbiome and conditions like anxiety, depression, and stress. When the microbial community in your intestines is rich and varied, it seems to support better mental health, while a depleted or imbalanced microbiome may contribute to mood disorders. The mechanisms are still being explored, but it appears that gut bacteria influence the brain through several pathways, including the vagus nerve, immune signaling, and the production of neurochemicals. This connection, often called the gut-brain axis, suggests that caring for your microbiome may be one way to care for your mind. Your mood is shaped by more than your thoughts. It is shaped by the life inside you. The tiniest creatures may hold great influence. Gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters like serotonin that affect how you feel. Roughly 90% of the serotonin in your body is produced in your gut, and a significant portion of that production depends on the bacteria living there. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter best known for its role in regulating mood, but it also influences sleep, appetite, and digestion. The bacteria in your intestines help to manufacture this chemical, converting dietary amino acids into serotonin with an efficiency your own cells cannot match. Other neurotransmitters, including dopamine and gamma-aminobutyric acid, are also influenced by gut microbes, meaning your emotional state may be partly written by the bacteria you host. Scientists are only beginning to understand this chemical conversation between microbes and the brain, but the implications are profound. Your feelings are not yours alone. They are a collaboration with the life inside you. The vagus nerve creates a direct communication pathway between your gut and brain. Running from your brainstem all the way down to your abdomen is the longest cranial nerve in your body, the vagus nerve, a wandering thread of fibers that connects your brain to your heart, lungs, and digestive system. Through this nerve, your gut and brain are in constant conversation, exchanging information about hunger, satiety, and mood. The vagus nerve carries signals in both directions. Your brain can tell your gut to slow down digestion, and your gut can send signals that influence how you feel. When gut bacteria produce certain chemicals, those signals can travel up the vagus nerve and affect your emotions, your stress response, and even your memory. This up as a churning stomach, or why a comforting meal can calm a troubled mind. The gut and the brain are not separate realms. They are partners, linked by a thread as old as the body itself. Changes in gut bacteria have been linked to anxiety and depression in scientific studies. Over the past decade, researchers have discovered links between the composition of gut bacteria and mental health conditions. Studies in both animals and humans have found that certain microbial profiles are associated with higher rates of anxiety and depression, while a more diverse microbiome seems to support emotional resilience. When scientists transplanted gut bacteria from anxious mice into calm ones, the calm mice began to show signs of anxiety, suggesting that microbes carry influence over behavior. In humans, clinical trials are exploring whether probiotics might help alleviate symptoms of depression, with early results showing modest but promising effects. The gut-brain axis is still being mapped, but evidence is growing that caring for your microbiome may be one way to care for your mind. The creatures inside you may shape how you feel. Mental health may begin in the belly. The gut is sometimes called the second brain because of its complex nervous system. Wrapped around the length of your digestive tract is a network of over 100 million neurons, more than are found in your spinal cord, forming what scientists call the enteric nervous system. This second brain can operate independently of the one in your skull, coordinating the contractions that move food through your intestines, regulating the release of digestive enzymes, and monitoring your gut lining for any signs of trouble. It can sense nutrients, detect harmful pathogens, and trigger immune responses without waiting for instructions from above. The enteric nervous system shares many of the same neurotransmitters and cell types as the brain in your head, which is why it can influence your mood and be affected by your emotions. When you feel nervous before a big event, your second brain is often the first to know. You think with more than your head. Your belly has its own quiet wisdom. Your gut bacteria help synthesize vitamins that your own body cannot produce. Certain vitamins essential for your health cannot be made by your own cells, but must be obtained from food or from the bacteria living in your gut. Vitamin K, which is crucial for blood clotting and bone health, is produced by several species of intestinal bacteria, as are some of the B vitamins that help your body convert food into energy. Without these microbial contributions, you would need to rely entirely on your diet to meet your nutritional needs, and deficiencies would be far more common. The bacteria do not make these vitamins for your benefit. They produce them for their own metabolism, but the excess spills over into your system, a fortunate byproduct of their presence. This quiet generosity is one of the many ways your microbiome supports your well-being. You are nourished by the waste of your smallest companions. The partnership runs deeper than you might think. Fiber-eating bacteria in your gut produce short-chain fatty acids that nourish your intestinal cells. When you eat foods rich in fiber, the complex carbohydrates that your own enzymes cannot break down travel undigested into your large intestine, where certain bacteria feast upon them. As these bacteria ferment the fiber, they release short-chain fatty acids as metabolic waste, molecules that serve as a primary energy source for the cells lining your colon. Without this microbial contribution, your intestinal lining would struggle to maintain itself, leaving you more vulnerable to inflammation and disease. The most abundant of these fatty acids, called butyrate, has been shown to have anti-inflammatory properties and may help protect against conditions like colorectal cancer. Eating a diet high in fiber is, in a sense, feeding your gut bacteria so they can feed you in return. The exchange is mutual and ancient. Your health depends on a partnership you cannot see. The composition of your gut microbiome is as unique as your fingerprint. No two people on Earth share exactly the same gut microbiome. The mix of species, their relative abundance, and the genes they carry together form a profile that is as individual as the whorls on your fingertips. This uniqueness is shaped by everything from your genetics to your diet, from the pets you have kept to the places you have lived. Even identical twins raised in the same household will have gut microbiomes that differ as they grow older and make different choices. Researchers studying the microbiome have found that they can often identify individuals by their microbial signature alone, a biological fingerprint written in bacteria. This diversity means that there is no single ideal microbiome. What works for one person may not work for another. Your inner ecosystem is yours alone. It has been shaped by your entire life, and it continues to change with every meal and every experience. Babies are born with nearly sterile guts that are colonized within hours of birth. Before birth, a baby's intestines are almost entirely free of microbes, a blank slate waiting to be written upon. The colonization begins the moment the child enters the world, as bacteria from the birth canal, the mother's skin, and the surrounding environment rush in to claim the new territory. Within hours, the gut is no longer empty. It has become home to a growing population of pioneers, the first wave of settlers in what will become a lifelong microbial community. This initial colonization is a critical moment, shaping the development of the immune system and influencing health for years to come. The species that arrive first often establish themselves firmly, affecting which bacteria can follow and thrive. A newborn's gut is a world quietly taking shape, molded by chance and circumstance. The first inhabitants leave marks that may last a lifetime. Breast milk contains special sugars designed to feed beneficial bacteria in a baby's gut. Human breast milk is not only food for the baby, it is also food for the baby's bacteria. Among its many components are complex sugars called human milk oligosaccharides, which the infant cannot digest at all. These sugars pass through the stomach and small intestine untouched, arriving in the large intestine where they serve as a feast for specific beneficial bacteria. By nourishing these helpful microbes, breast milk helps establish a healthy gut community from the very start of life. The bacteria that thrive on these sugars outcompete harmful ones, helping to protect the infant from infection and inflammation. This is an exquisite example of coevolution. Mothers produce sugars they cannot use for their children to feed bacteria that benefit both. The body has been nurturing its microbial partners for as long as there have been mothers and children. The mode of birth, vaginal or cesarean, influences a baby's initial microbial colonization. Babies born vaginally are bathed in their mother's microbes as they pass through the birth canal, picking up bacteria that will become the first colonizers of their gut, skin, and mouth. These bacteria, adapted to the human body, are well suited to establish a healthy community in the newborn. Babies delivered by cesarean section are exposed first to the microbes of the operating room and the hands of medical staff, which may lead to a different, Studies have found that cesarean-born infants tend to have less diverse gut microbiomes in their early months, although these differences often diminish over time. Some researchers are exploring whether swabbing cesarean babies with vaginal fluids can help restore a more natural microbial start. The way you enter the world may shape the invisible community you carry. Birth is the first handshake between a child and its microbes. By age 3, a child's gut microbiome resembles that of an adult. The first few years of life are a time of rapid change in the gut microbiome, as the infant's diet expands from milk to solid foods and the microbial community shifts in response. New species arrive, some flourish, others fade, and the ecosystem gradually settles into a more stable configuration. By around age 3, the child's gut microbiome has come to resemble that of an adult, with a diverse and relatively stable community that will persist, with minor variations, for decades. This early window is a critical period. The experiences and exposures of these years help to shape the microbiome that will influence health throughout life. Antibiotics, diet, illness, and environment all leave their marks during this formative time. The community you carry as an adult was largely assembled in your earliest years. Childhood writes a story that the body remembers. And as you rest with these truths of the invisible world within, let them settle like sediment in still water. The microbes that live inside you have been part of human life since the first breath of the first child. You carry an ancient community, quietly thriving. Let your breath slow, and let your body feel held by billions of small companions. Fermented foods like yogurt, kimchi, and sauerkraut contain live beneficial bacteria. Across every continent and throughout human history, people have discovered that allowing certain foods to ferment produces something delicious and nourishing. Yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, miso, and countless other traditional foods are alive with beneficial bacteria, the same kinds of microbes that support a healthy gut. When you eat these foods, some of those bacteria survive the journey through your stomach and take up residence in your intestines, adding to the diversity of your inner ecosystem. The cultures used to make fermented foods are often passed down through generations, living heirlooms that carry the microbial heritage of a family or a region. Eating fermented foods is a way of inviting helpful guests into your body, visitors that may improve digestion and support your immune system. The practice is ancient, but the science is only now catching up. Humans have been fermenting food for at least 10,000 years. Long before anyone understood what bacteria were, people knew that leaving certain foods alone for a while could transform them into something that lasted longer and tasted better. Archaeological evidence suggests that humans have been fermenting grains, fruits, and milk for at least 10,000 years, making fermentation one of the oldest technologies in human history. In ancient Mesopotamia, bread and beer were staples, both products of microbial action. In East Asia, fermented soy products like miso and soy sauce have been made for millennia. These traditions arose independently around the world, as people everywhere discovered the same basic truth. Microbes could be harnessed to make food safer, more nutritious, and more flavorful. Fermentation was a partnership long before it was understood. You are the heir to a practice that is older than writing itself. Fermentation was originally a method of preservation before refrigeration existed. Before the invention of refrigerators and freezers, people faced a constant challenge: how to keep food from spoiling. Fermentation offered a solution. By encouraging certain microbes to grow, you could create an environment hostile to the bacteria and molds that cause food to rot. The acids, alcohols, and other compounds produced during fermentation act as natural preservatives, allowing vegetables, dairy, and meats to last for months or even years. Sauerkraut kept sailors healthy on long voyages. Salted fish fermented in barrels fed entire communities through harsh winters. The practice was born of necessity, but it also created new flavors and textures that became beloved in their own right. Refrigeration is a recent invention, but fermentation is ancient. For most of human history, the work of microbes kept people fed through the lean times. The tangy taste of fermented foods comes from lactic acid produced by bacteria. When you bite into a pickle or spoon up a mouthful of yogurt, the sour, tangy flavor you taste is the signature of lactic acid bacteria at work. These microbes consume the sugars present in food and excrete lactic acid as a waste product, gradually acidifying their surroundings. This acidity is what gives fermented foods their distinctive taste and also what makes them so well preserved. Few harmful bacteria can survive in such a sour environment. The process is called lactic acid fermentation, and it is responsible for the flavors of kimchi, kefir, sourdough bread, and many other traditional foods around the world. The same bacteria that produce this acid are often beneficial to your gut, making fermented foods both delicious and healthful. The tang on your tongue is a message from microbes. It is a sign that the food has been lovingly transformed. Cheese making depends on specific bacterial cultures that transform milk into hundreds of varieties. The world of cheese is astonishingly diverse, with hundreds of named varieties ranging from soft, creamy brie to hard, crumbly Parmesan, and much of that diversity comes down to bacteria. Different bacterial cultures produce different acids, enzymes, and flavor compounds, shaping the texture and taste of the final cheese. The same basic ingredient, milk, can become something mild or pungent, smooth or grainy, depending on which microbes are introduced and how the cheese is aged. Some cheeses are ripened with molds as well as bacteria, adding layers of complexity to the flavor. Cheesemakers have cultivated their starter cultures for centuries, sometimes guarding the exact strains as closely held secrets. The cheese on your table is a collaboration between humans and microbes, a partnership refined over generations. Each wheel is a small world shaped by invisible hands. And from the foods we share with microbes, we turn to the role these tiny organisms play in the wider world. Soil bacteria are essential for breaking down dead plant matter and recycling nutrients. Beneath your feet, in every pinch of healthy soil, billions of bacteria are quietly at work, breaking down the remains of fallen leaves, dead roots, and decaying organisms. Without these decomposers, the world would be buried under an ever-growing pile of organic debris, and the nutrients locked inside would never return to the living. Soil bacteria secrete enzymes that break complex molecules into simpler ones, releasing nitrogen, phosphorus, and other elements that plants need to grow. This process of decomposition is the foundation of every terrestrial ecosystem, recycling the matter that makes life possible. The fertility of the soil depends on the health of its microbial community. Where bacteria thrive, plants flourish. The ground you walk on is alive with tiny workers. They are the unseen janitors of the living world around you. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria convert atmospheric nitrogen into forms that plants can use. The air you breathe is nearly 80% nitrogen, yet most living things cannot use this abundant element directly. The nitrogen in the atmosphere is locked in a form that plants and animals cannot absorb, a molecule so stable that it resists almost all chemical reactions. Only a handful of microbes have evolved the ability to break this bond and convert atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia, a form that plants can take up through their roots and use to build their tissues. These nitrogen-fixing bacteria are among the most important organisms on Earth, providing the raw material for proteins, DNA, and every other nitrogen-containing molecule in living cells. Without them, the cycle of life would grind to a halt. The air is full of nitrogen, but only microbes can unlock it. They are the gatekeepers of an element essential to all life. Without nitrogen-fixing microbes, most plants would starve for this essential nutrient. Nitrogen is a key building block of life, found in every protein, every strand of DNA, and every molecule of chlorophyll that makes plants green. Plants need nitrogen to grow, but they cannot take it from the air. They must absorb it through their roots in the form of nitrates or ammonia. In natural ecosystems, the supply of usable nitrogen is limited, and it is nitrogen-fixing bacteria that replenish the soil with this precious and vital resource. Without these microbes, most plants would eventually exhaust the available nitrogen and begin to starve, their leaves yellowing and their growth stunted. Farmers have long understood this, rotating crops and planting legumes to restore nitrogen to the soil. The green world depends on the work of invisible bacteria. Without them, the fields would fall silent and the forests would slowly fade. Legumes like peas and beans form partnerships with nitrogen-fixing bacteria in their roots. If you pull up a pea plant or a bean vine and examine its roots, you may notice small, rounded nodules clinging to the root fibers like tiny beads strung along the threads. Inside those nodules, live colonies of nitrogen-fixing bacteria, sheltered and fed by the plant in exchange for a steady supply of usable nitrogen. This symbiosis is one of the most remarkable partnerships in the natural world, allowing legumes to thrive in poor soils where other plants would struggle and wither. The bacteria receive sugars from the plant receives nitrogen from the bacteria in return. Farmers have used this relationship for centuries, planting legumes to enrich their fields without adding synthetic fertilizers. The partnership is written into the very structure of the root itself. Where plant and microbe meet, both flourish together. Mycorrhizal fungi and bacteria work together to help forests communicate and share resources. Beneath the floor of a forest lies a vast, hidden network of fungal threads, the mycorrhizae, that connect the roots of trees and plants to one another in a living web. These fungi form partnerships with both the plants and with soil bacteria, creating a system through which nutrients, water, and even chemical signals can flow from tree to tree. Through this network, a mother tree can send sugars to a struggling seedling. A dying tree can release its nutrients to its neighbors. Bacteria living alongside the fungi help to break down organic matter and make nutrients available, adding another layer to the partnership. Scientists have called this underground system the Wood Wide Web, a living internet that allows the forest to function as a single, interconnected organism. The trees above speak to one another through the microbes below. Ocean microbes produce roughly half of the oxygen we breathe every day. Every second breath you take owes its oxygen to the invisible life drifting in the world's oceans. Cyanobacteria and other photosynthetic microbes floating near the surface of the sea capture sunlight and carbon dioxide, releasing oxygen as a byproduct of their quiet metabolism. Collectively, these tiny organisms produce roughly half of all the oxygen generated on Earth each year, matching the output of all the forests, grasslands, and other land plants combined. Without them, the atmosphere would slowly lose its oxygen, and most complex life would suffocate. The oceans may look empty and still from the surface, but they are teeming with life too small to see, life that keeps the air breathable for every creature on land. The oxygen in your lungs connects you to creatures you will never meet. The sea breathes quietly so that you can breathe too. Phytoplankton, tiny photosynthetic microbes, form the base of the entire marine food web. Floating in the sunlit upper layers of every ocean are countless trillions of phytoplankton, microscopic organisms that harvest energy from the sun and convert it into living tissue. These tiny creatures are the foundation upon which the entire marine food web is built. They are eaten by zooplankton, which are eaten by small fish, which are eaten by larger fish, and so on up to the great whales and the sharks. Without phytoplankton, the oceans would be nearly lifeless, and the fisheries that feed billions of people all around the world would collapse entirely. These microbes are so abundant that from space, their blooms can be seen as swirling green and blue patterns across the vast ocean surface. The smallest organisms support the largest creatures in the sea. At the very bottom of the food web, invisible life holds up the giants. A single liter of seawater may contain over 1 billion bacteria and 10 billion viruses. If you were to dip a bottle into the ocean and bring up a single liter of seawater, you would be holding a universe of microscopic life within your hands. That liter may contain over 1 billion bacteria, each carrying out its own chemical processes, and 10 times as many viruses, most of which prey upon those bacteria in an endless cycle of life and death. The numbers are almost impossible to grasp. The oceans contain more microbes than there are stars in the observable universe. These creatures are not evenly distributed but cluster around nutrients and sunlight, forming invisible ecosystems that shift and bloom with the seasons. The sea is not merely water. It is a living broth, dense with life too small for the eye to perceive. A single drop holds multitudes. The ocean is alive in ways we are only now beginning to understand. Marine bacteria play a crucial role in cycling carbon between the ocean and atmosphere. Carbon is the backbone of all living things, and it moves constantly between the air, the sea, and the bodies of organisms in a great cycle that shapes the climate of the entire planet. Marine bacteria are essential players in this vast and ancient cycle, breaking down dead organic matter and releasing carbon dioxide back into the water, where it may eventually rise and return to the atmosphere far above. Other bacteria help to fix carbon into forms that sink down to the deep ocean, locking it away for centuries or even millennia. The balance of these processes affects how much carbon dioxide remains in the air and how quickly the planet warms. The fate of the climate is shaped in part by creatures too small to see with the naked eye. Microbes are the invisible regulators of the Earth's thermostat, quietly working beneath the waves. Dead microbes sinking to the ocean floor form part of the long-term carbon storage system. When microbes die in the upper layers of the ocean, their tiny bodies begin to sink, drifting slowly downward through the dark water like a gentle, endless snowfall of organic matter. This rain of dead cells mixed with the waste of other organisms carries carbon from the surface to the deep sea, where it may be buried in sediments and locked away for millions of years. This process, sometimes called the biological carbon pump, is one of the planet's most important mechanisms for removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and storing it safely away beneath the waves. Without it, the climate would be far warmer, and the world would look very different from the one we know today. The dead feed the deep, and in sinking, they help to keep the Earth habitable. Microbes in death serve the living world just as surely as they did in life. And from the depths of the ocean, we now turn to the surprising places where microbes have been found. Microbes have been discovered living kilometers beneath the Earth's surface in solid rock. Deep beneath your feet, far below the reach of sunlight, water, and fresh air, life persists in places once thought to be utterly sterile and lifeless. Scientists drilling into the Earth's crust have found bacteria thriving several kilometers underground, living in tiny pores within solid rock and feeding on the chemical energy released by slow reactions between minerals and water. These deep subsurface microbes make up a hidden biosphere that may contain as much living material as all the life on the surface above. They live in total darkness, under crushing pressure, at temperatures that would kill most organisms living on the surface. The Earth is not merely a thin layer of life resting on a dead rock. It is alive far deeper than we ever imagined. The planet's deep crust is a quiet home for creatures we have only just begun to know. Some deep subsurface bacteria divide only once every 100 years or more. Life in the deep subsurface moves at a pace almost impossible for us to imagine or comprehend. With so little energy available, the bacteria living in solid rock have slowed their metabolism to a crawl, dividing only once every few decades, or even every few centuries. By comparison, the bacteria in your gut may divide every 20 minutes, a pace that would seem frantic to their deep-dwelling cousins. These ancient, slow-living microbes challenge our understanding of what it means to be alive, stretching the boundaries of biology to their very limits. Some cells found deep underground may be thousands of years old, quietly persisting in the darkness without ever dividing at all. Time moves differently for them. A human lifetime is barely a blink. In the deep earth, patience is the price of survival, and these microbes have patience beyond measure. Bacteria have been found thriving in the radioactive cooling pools of nuclear reactors. One of the most surprising places where life has been found is in the cooling pools of nuclear reactors, bathed in radiation that would be lethal to humans within just a few minutes. Certain bacteria, far from being killed by the radiation, actually thrive in these extreme environments, feeding on hydrogen and other chemicals produced by the breakdown of water under intense radiation. These remarkable organisms challenge our assumptions about the limits of life, showing that even the most hostile environments imaginable can be homes to living things. The discovery of life in such places has expanded our sense of where to look for microbes on Earth and beyond. If bacteria can survive here, perhaps they could survive on other worlds, orbiting distant stars. The hardiest life finds a way, even in the eerie blue glow of a reactor pool. Microbes called Deinococcus radiodurans can survive radiation doses that would kill humans instantly. Among the most radiation-resistant organisms ever discovered is a bacterium called Deinococcus radiodurans, sometimes nicknamed Conan the bacterium for its remarkable and astonishing toughness. This microbe can survive doses of radiation thousands of times higher than what would kill a human, repairing its shattered DNA with astonishing efficiency. It has also been shown to endure extreme cold, the vacuum of space, and prolonged desiccation, making it one of the hardiest life forms ever found. Scientists study Deinococcus to understand how DNA repair mechanisms work and whether similar organisms might survive on other planets far from Earth. The existence of such resilient microbes expands our sense of what life can endure. Some creatures are built to survive the unsurvivable. The toughest life is often the very smallest. Tardigrades are not microbes, but carry bacteria that help them survive extreme conditions. Tardigrades, also known as water bears, are tiny animals famous for their ability to survive conditions that would kill almost any other creature, from the vacuum of space to boiling water to intense radiation. Though they are not microbes themselves, tardigrades carry communities of bacteria inside and on their bodies, and some researchers believe these microbial passengers may help them endure extreme stress. The bacteria may produce protective compounds or assist with metabolism during long periods of dormancy when the tardigrade shuts down its systems entirely. This partnership hints at the hidden ways that microbes support life in the harshest environments. Even the toughest animals may owe part of their resilience to the invisible life they carry. The tiny helpers are everywhere, even inside the hardiest creatures on Earth. Bacteria have survived on the outside of the International Space Station for over a year. In experiments conducted aboard the International Space Station, scientists placed samples of bacteria on the exterior of the spacecraft, exposing them directly to the harsh vacuum of space, intense ultraviolet radiation, and the extreme temperature swings that occur as the station moves between sunlight and shadow. Remarkably, some of these microbes survived for more than a year in this profoundly hostile environment, shielded only by the thin layer of their own dried cells or the mineral grains in which they were embedded. This discovery suggests that life is far more resilient than we once believed and raises the possibility that microbes could survive long journeys through space on meteorites. The void between worlds may not be the absolute barrier to life that it once seemed. Space, for all its hostility, may yet serve as a bridge between distant shores. Some scientists believe microbes could travel between planets on meteorites. When asteroids or comets strike a planet with great force, the energy of the impact can blast fragments of rock high into space, carrying with them any microbes that might have been living deep within the stone. If those microbes are hardy enough to withstand the shock and the cold darkness of space, they could survive the journey through the vacuum for thousands or even millions of years before finally landing on another world. Some scientists believe this process, called lithopanspermia, could explain how life first arrived on Earth billions of years ago, or how it might spread to other planets in our solar system and beyond. Meteorites found on Earth have been shown to contain organic molecules, and some appear to have come from Mars. The seeds of life may travel further than we ever imagined, drifting between worlds on fragments of shattered stone. The theory that life spreads through space via microbes is called panspermia. The theory of panspermia proposes that life did not originate independently on every world where it exists, but instead spreads through the cosmos carried by meteorites, comets, or even drifting dust grains blown by the radiation of distant stars. This ancient idea has been revisited in modern times as scientists have discovered just how remarkably resilient certain microbes can be, and how surprisingly common the exchange of material between planets truly is. If panspermia is correct, then life on Earth may be part of a vast biological network spanning the entire galaxy, with distant worlds sharing a common ancestor in the unfathomably deep past. The idea does not answer how life first began somewhere in the universe, but it suggests that once it does, it may be almost impossible to contain within a single world. Life, like a quiet whisper carried on the cosmic wind, may echo endlessly across the stars. Microbes found in ancient salt crystals may have been dormant for millions of years. Deep within ancient salt deposits beneath the surface of the Earth, scientists have found bacteria that appear to have been trapped for tens of millions of years, sealed away in tiny fluid inclusions within the crystals where they have waited in perfect stillness. When these crystals are carefully opened under sterile conditions, some of the bacteria can be revived and coaxed back to life, resuming their metabolic activities as if no time had passed at all. The idea that life can persist in a dormant state for such unimaginable spans challenges our understanding of what it means to be alive. These ancient survivors offer a window into the distant geological past and raise profound questions about the true limits of biological endurance. Time, for some microbes, may be little more than a gentle pause between breaths, a quiet interlude in an existence that spans the ages. Reviving ancient microbes raises questions about the true limits of life. The revival of ancient microbes from salt crystals, permafrost, and deep rock formations forces us to reconsider what we mean by the word alive. If a bacterium can remain dormant for millions of years in perfect stillness and then resume its activities when conditions improve, at what point did it cease to be living, and at what point did it begin again? These questions blur the boundary between life and non-life in fascinating ways, suggesting that existence is not a simple binary state but rather a spectrum of possibilities stretching from activity to stillness and back again. The study of such remarkable organisms may help us understand how life could persist on other worlds during long periods of dormancy and isolation. The microbes sleeping in the ancient stones remind us that life is patient beyond all measure, waiting quietly in the darkness for conditions to change. And as you rest with these facts to fall asleep to, let them dissolve into the quiet of the night. The microbes we have explored are older than mountains, more patient than rivers, and more numerous than the stars you see. Let your body sink a little deeper now, carried by the knowledge that life persists in ways we cannot imagine. Viruses are technically not alive because they cannot reproduce without a host cell. Viruses occupy a strange twilight zone between the living and the non-living, existing in a state that defies easy classification. They are little more than packets of genetic material wrapped in a protein coat, utterly inert and lifeless until they encounter a suitable host cell. Once inside, they hijack the cell's own machinery to make copies of themselves, bursting forth in great numbers to infect new hosts and repeat the endless cycle of replication. Because they cannot grow, metabolize, or reproduce on their own without assistance, most biologists do not consider them truly alive in the traditional sense of the word. Yet they evolve, adapt, and shape the history of life on Earth in profound and lasting ways. Viruses are the ghosts of the biological world, neither fully present nor fully absent, drifting silently between existence and oblivion in every corner of our planet. There are more viruses on Earth than any other biological entity. The number of viruses on Earth is almost beyond comprehension, a figure so vast that it challenges our ability to grasp its true meaning. Scientists estimate that there are roughly 10 nonillion viruses on the planet, a number so immense that if you lined them all up end to end, they would stretch far beyond the edge of the observable universe into the unknown darkness beyond. Most of these countless viruses infect bacteria, playing a crucial role in regulating microbial populations and driving the evolution of their hosts through relentless predation. Every single drop of seawater contains millions of viral particles, and every gram of soil teems with countless more. Viruses are the most abundant biological entities on our planet, yet they remain largely invisible to our everyday experience and awareness. The world is awash in viruses, and we swim through them unknowingly with every breath we take. Most viruses are harmless to humans and infect only bacteria or other microbes. Despite the fear that viruses often inspire in us, the vast majority of them pose no threat to humans at all. Most viruses are highly specialized creatures, targeting only specific types of bacteria, archaea, or other microbes, and they cannot infect human cells even if they somehow found their way into our bodies. The viruses that do cause disease in humans represent only a tiny fraction of the total viral diversity on Earth, and many of those cause only mild or transient infections that pass without lasting harm. In fact, some viruses may even be beneficial to us, helping to regulate the populations of harmful bacteria or playing important roles in ecosystems that we do not yet fully understand. The viral world is not our enemy. It is simply indifferent to us, going about its ancient business without any awareness of our existence or concerns. Bacteriophages, viruses that attack bacteria, are being studied as alternatives to antibiotics. Bacteriophages, or phages for short, are viruses that specifically infect and kill bacteria with remarkable precision. For decades, scientists have explored the possibility of using phages as an alternative to antibiotics, particularly as antibiotic resistance becomes an ever more pressing global health concern that threatens modern medicine. Because each phage targets only certain specific types of bacteria, phage therapy can be highly precise and selective, destroying harmful pathogens while leaving beneficial microbes completely unharmed. In some countries, phage therapy has been used successfully for nearly a century to treat bacterial infections, and recent advances in genetic engineering are making it possible to design custom phages tailored for specific infections. The enemies of our enemies may yet become our greatest allies in the fight against disease and resistance. Your own genome contains remnants of ancient viral infections passed down through generations. Hidden within your own DNA are the remnants of ancient viral infections that occurred in your distant ancestors millions of years ago in the deep past. Over countless generations, some viruses inserted their genetic material into the cells of our forebears, and those sequences have been faithfully passed down through the ages ever since, becoming a permanent part of our inheritance. Today, about 8% of the human genome consists of these endogenous retroviruses, and remarkably, some of them have been repurposed by evolution to serve essential functions in our bodies. One such gene, inherited from a virus long ago, is crucial for the formation of the placenta in mammals, without which live birth would be impossible. We are, in a very real sense, part virus ourselves, carrying the echoes of ancient infections in every single cell of our bodies. And from the strange world of viruses, We turn now to how microbes communicate with one another. Bacteria communicate using chemical signals in a process called quorum sensing. For a long time, scientists assumed that bacteria were solitary creatures, each cell acting independently without any awareness of its neighbors. But we now know that bacteria are constantly communicating with one another, releasing and detecting chemical signals that allow them to sense the presence and density of their own kind. This process, called quorum sensing, enables bacteria to coordinate their behavior in ways that benefit the entire population. When the concentration of signaling molecules reaches a threshold, the bacteria respond by changing their gene expression, sometimes turning on new behaviors that would be useless for a single cell, but powerful for a group acting together. In this sense, bacteria are not truly alone. They exist as part of a hidden community, listening and responding to the whispers of their neighbors. Quorum sensing allows bacteria to coordinate behavior when their population reaches a certain density. Through quorum sensing, bacteria can time their collective actions with remarkable precision and coordination. A single bacterium releasing a toxin or forming a biofilm would accomplish very little on its own. But when millions of cells act together at the same moment, the effect can be dramatic and overwhelming. By waiting until their numbers are sufficient, bacteria ensure that their efforts are not wasted and that their collective power is maximized. This coordination allows them to overwhelm host defenses, form protective structures, and secure resources in competitive environments. Quorum sensing is a form of bacterial democracy where every cell contributes to a shared chemical census. When enough voices speak, the group acts as one. The power of microbes lies not just in their numbers, but in their ability to sense and respond to those numbers. Some bacteria only produce toxins when quorum sensing tells them enough of their kind are present. Some pathogenic bacteria use quorum sensing to decide when to release their harmful toxins into the host. If a single bacterium were to release toxins immediately upon entering a host body, the immune system would quickly detect the threat and mount a powerful response before the infection could take hold and spread. By waiting until a critical mass of bacteria has accumulated in the tissues, the pathogens can launch a coordinated attack that overwhelms the host's defenses before it has time to respond effectively. This strategy makes quorum sensing a key factor in the severity of many bacterial infections. Disrupting this communication is now a major focus of medical research, as silencing the bacterial conversation could render pathogens far less dangerous to us. The bacteria bide their time, waiting in silence until the moment is right to strike. Bioluminescent bacteria in the ocean glow together only when they sense sufficient numbers. One of the most beautiful examples of quorum sensing can be seen in the bioluminescent bacteria that live in the ocean and inside certain marine animals such as squid and fish. These remarkable bacteria produce light only when they sense that enough of their kind are present nearby. A lone glowing cell would be pointless and wasteful. But a dense colony can produce a brilliant glow visible to other creatures in the dark water. In some symbiotic relationships, animals use this bacterial light for camouflage or communication, benefiting from the soft glow while providing the bacteria with a safe, warm home and nutrients. The ocean at night is illuminated by trillions of these tiny lanterns, each one a testament to the power of bacterial cooperation. In the blackness of the deep sea, microbes light the way for those who carry them. Scientists are developing drugs that disrupt quorum sensing to fight bacterial infections. Understanding quorum sensing has opened new and very promising avenues for fighting bacterial infections without relying on traditional antibiotics. Scientists are developing drugs that interfere with the signaling molecules bacteria use to communicate, effectively jamming their conversations and preventing them from coordinating dangerous behaviors. Unlike antibiotics, which kill bacteria outright and create strong selective pressure for resistance to evolve, quorum sensing inhibitors may disarm pathogens without killing them, reducing the pressure that drives resistance. This approach could provide a gentler but equally effective way to control infections, working alongside the body's own natural immune defenses. The future of medicine may lie in silencing the whispers of bacteria rather than simply trying to destroy them all. Bacteria can share genetic material with each other through a process called horizontal gene transfer. Bacteria have a remarkable ability to share genetic material not just with their offspring, but with other bacteria around them, even those of completely different species. This process, called horizontal gene transfer, allows useful genes to spread rapidly through microbial communities like rumors through a crowd. Bacteria can exchange genes through direct cell-to-cell contact, by absorbing free DNA from their surrounding environment, or by carrying genes on viruses that shuttle between hosts. This fluid exchange of genetic information blurs the boundaries between species and accelerates evolution at a pace that would be impossible for organisms that reproduce only vertically, passing genes from parent to child. In the microbial world, genes are shared freely, and innovation spreads far faster than we could ever have imagined. This gene sharing allows bacteria to rapidly spread antibiotic resistance between species. One of the most concerning consequences of horizontal gene transfer is the rapid spread of antibiotic resistance among bacteria. When a single bacterium evolves a gene that protects it from an antibiotic, it can share that gene with other bacteria nearby. Even those of completely different species that would never have developed such resistance on their own. Within hours or days, resistance can spread through an entire population, rendering once effective drugs useless against infections that were previously easy to treat. This is why doctors urge caution in prescribing antibiotics and why the overuse of these drugs in farming has become such a serious concern for health. The genes that protect bacteria from our medicines travel faster than we can develop new treatments. In the arms race between microbes and medicine, bacteria have a powerful advantage. Antibiotic resistance is one of the greatest health challenges of our time. Antibiotic resistance is now recognized as one of the greatest public health challenges facing humanity in the 21st century. Infections that were once easily cured with a simple course of pills are becoming harder and harder to treat, and some strains of bacteria are now resistant to nearly every antibiotic we have in our medical arsenal. If this trend continues unchecked, we may face a future in which minor infections can once again become life-threatening and routine surgeries carry grave risks of untreatable complications. The World Health Organization has warned that we are approaching a post-antibiotic era where the miracle drugs that transformed medicine in the 20th century may lose their power entirely. The golden age of antibiotics may be drawing to a close, and the tiny creatures we once defeated are learning to fight back. The overuse of antibiotics in medicine and farming has accelerated resistance evolution. The widespread use of antibiotics in medicine and agriculture has accelerated the evolution of resistant bacteria far beyond what would have occurred naturally in the wild. In hospitals, antibiotics are sometimes prescribed when they are not truly needed, and in farming, they are often given to healthy animals to promote growth rather than to treat disease. Every single unnecessary exposure gives bacteria another opportunity to evolve resistance and pass it on to their neighbors through horizontal gene transfer. Reducing the overuse of antibiotics is essential if we are to slow the spread of resistance and preserve the effectiveness of these vital medicines for future generations. The drugs we take for granted today may not be there for our children if we do not act wisely. Every single dose matters in the fight against resistance. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin in 1928 by accident from a mold. The story of penicillin's discovery is one of the great accidents of scientific history. In 1928, the Scottish biologist Alexander Fleming returned from a holiday to find that a mold had contaminated one of his bacterial cultures. Rather than throwing it away in frustration, he noticed that the bacteria near the mold had died, suggesting that the fungus was producing some substance that was deadly to bacteria. This chance observation led to the development of penicillin, the first true antibiotic, which has since saved countless millions of lives. The mold was penicillium, and the substance it produced would change the course of medicine forever. A moment of curiosity transformed a laboratory accident into one of humanity's greatest gifts. Sometimes the most important discoveries arise from the least expected places. And from the challenge of resistance, we turn to the many ways microbes help humanity. Microbes are used to produce insulin, vaccines, and many other life-saving medicines. For centuries, humans relied on chance and nature to produce medicines. But today, we have learned to harness microbes as living factories for healing. Genetically engineered bacteria now produce human insulin, saving the lives of millions of diabetics who once had to rely on insulin extracted from pigs or cows. Vaccines, hormones, and many other vital drugs are manufactured in vast fermentation tanks where modified microbes work tirelessly to produce the molecules we need. This revolution in biotechnology has made life-saving treatments available on a scale that would have been unimaginable just a few decades ago. The tiny organisms we once feared as agents of disease have become some of our most valuable allies in the fight for health. Medicine today owes much of its power to the microscopic factories humming in laboratories around the world. Genetically engineered bacteria can be programmed to produce almost any protein we design. The tools of genetic engineering have given scientists the remarkable ability to reprogram bacteria to produce almost any protein we can imagine. By inserting the gene for a desired protein into a bacterium's DNA, researchers can turn a simple microbe into a tireless factory, churning out the target molecule as the cells grow and divide in their nutrient-rich broth. This powerful technique has been used to produce not only medical drugs but also enzymes for industry, ingredients for food, and even materials for construction and manufacturing. The possibilities are limited only by our imagination and our understanding of biology. In the hands of scientists, bacteria have become programmable machines ready to manufacture whatever we design for them. The future may be built, in part, by invisible workers no larger than a speck of dust, toiling in vats and tubes around the world. Bioremediation uses microbes to clean up oil spills and toxic waste. When oil spills blacken the sea or toxic chemicals seep into the ground and water, nature has a quiet army ready to help clean up the mess we have made. Certain bacteria have evolved the remarkable ability to break down hydrocarbons and other dangerous pollutants, using them as food and converting them into harmless byproducts that pose no threat. Scientists have learned to encourage and enhance these natural processes through bioremediation, deploying microbes to sites of contamination where they slowly digest the poisons we have left behind. This approach is often gentler and more sustainable than chemical treatments, working with nature rather than against it. The microbes that once seemed insignificant are now among our most valuable partners in healing the wounds we have inflicted on the earth. Where humans pollute, microbes can help restore the balance. Some bacteria can break down plastics that would otherwise persist for centuries. Plastics are among the most persistent pollutants on Earth, lingering in landfills and oceans for hundreds or even thousands of years before they finally break down into smaller and smaller pieces. But in recent years, scientists have discovered bacteria capable of degrading certain types of plastic, offering a glimmer of hope in the fight against pollution and waste. These plastic-eating microbes produce specialized enzymes that can break the chemical bonds holding plastic molecules together, slowly converting them into simpler compounds that pose less harm. Researchers are now working to improve and scale up these processes, hoping to create systems that can tackle the mountains of plastic waste choking our planet. The solution to one of our greatest environmental challenges may come from creatures too small to see. Nature, once again, offers a way forward. Microbes are being explored as living factories for biofuels and sustainable materials. As the world searches for alternatives to fossil fuels and unsustainable materials, microbes are emerging as promising candidates for a greener and more sustainable future. Scientists are engineering bacteria and algae to produce biofuels that could one day power our cars and planes without adding new carbon to the atmosphere or depleting finite reserves. Other microbes are being developed to synthesize plastics, fibers, and building materials from renewable sources, reducing our dependence on petroleum and the damage it causes. These living factories offer the tantalizing possibility of a circular economy, where waste becomes food and products are grown rather than mined from the earth. The future of industry may depend not on drilling and extraction, but on the quiet work of microscopic organisms. Microbes may yet help us build a more sustainable world. The brewing of beer and wine relies on yeast, a single-celled fungus, fermenting sugars. The brewing of beer and wine is one of humanity's oldest biotechnologies, practiced for thousands of years before anyone truly understood the science behind it. The process depends entirely on yeast, a single-celled fungus that consumes sugars and produces alcohol and carbon dioxide as its waste products. When yeast is added to crushed grapes or malted barley, it sets to work, transforming the sweet liquid into wine or beer through the ancient process of fermentation. Different strains of yeast impart different flavors and aromas, and brewers and winemakers have cultivated their favorite strains for many countless generations. What began as a happy accident has become a precise art, all thanks to the invisible labors of a humble fungus. Every sip of wine or beer is a testament to the quiet partnership between humans and microbes. Bread rises because yeast produces carbon dioxide bubbles during fermentation. The soft, airy texture of bread is the work of yeast, the same microscopic fungus that brews our beer and wine. When yeast is mixed into dough, it begins to feed on the sugars in the flour, releasing carbon dioxide gas that forms tiny bubbles trapped within the stretchy gluten network. As the dough rises and slowly expands over time, these bubbles grow larger, giving bread its characteristic light and fluffy crumb that we all know and love so very much. Baking kills the yeast and sets the structure, preserving the airy texture in the finished loaf for us to enjoy. For thousands of years, bakers have relied on this invisible partner to transform simple ingredients of flour, water, and salt into one of humanity's most beloved and comforting foods. The loaf on your table is the fruit of an ancient collaboration between human hands and microbes. Vinegar is made when bacteria convert alcohol into acetic acid. Vinegar, the sharp and tangy liquid found in kitchens around the world, is made by bacteria transforming alcohol into acetic acid through a simple but elegant process. When wine, cider, or any other alcoholic liquid is exposed to air, acetic acid bacteria settle on the surface and begin their quiet work, slowly converting the alcohol into vinegar over days or weeks of patient fermentation. This ancient process was likely discovered by accident when wine left too long turned sour, but humans quickly learned to harness it for preservation, flavoring, and cleaning in their homes. Today, vinegar is produced on an industrial scale in modern facilities, but the basic chemistry remains exactly the same as it was thousands of years ago when it was first discovered. The sharp taste that brightens salads and pickles is the gift of bacteria quietly doing their work. The distinctive flavor of sourdough bread comes from wild bacteria and yeast. Sourdough bread has a distinctive tangy flavor and chewy texture that set it apart from other breads, and these wonderful qualities are the gift of wild microbes captured from the air around us. Unlike commercial bread, which uses cultivated yeast, sourdough relies on a living culture of wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria that ferment the dough over many hours of patient rising and slow development. The bacteria produce acids that give sourdough its characteristic tang and depth of flavor, while the wild yeast provides the lift that makes the bread rise beautifully. Each sourdough starter is unique, shaped by the particular microbes present in its environment and the care of the baker who tends it with devotion over time. A loaf of sourdough is not just bread, it is a living collaboration between human hands and the invisible world of microbes. Microbes in compost heaps break down organic waste into rich, fertile soil. A compost heap may look like nothing more than a pile of rotting waste, but it is actually a thriving ecosystem of microbes hard at work breaking down organic matter into something new and fertile. Bacteria, fungi, and other tiny organisms digest dead leaves, food scraps, and garden trimmings, transforming them into rich, dark humus that can nourish the soil and support new growth in gardens and farms around the world. The heat generated by their intense activity can cause a compost pile to steam on a cold morning, a visible sign of the powerful microbial metabolism taking place within. Composting is one of the simplest ways to recycle nutrients and reduce waste, and it depends entirely on the ceaseless labor of invisible life. The soil beneath your feet owes much of its fertility to the quiet work of microbes turning death into new and vibrant life. And as you rest in this sleepy science journey through the world of microbes, let these quiet facts settle like leaves on still water. The tiny creatures we have explored have shaped every corner of life on Earth. Let your breath deepen, let your thoughts grow soft, and know that the invisible world carries on its work while you rest. Scientists estimate there may be 1 trillion species of microbes on Earth, most undiscovered. The microbial world is almost unimaginably vast and diverse, far exceeding anything we can directly observe. Scientists now estimate that there may be as many as 1 trillion distinct species of microbes living on our planet, a number so large it is difficult to comprehend. Of this staggering total, only a tiny fraction has ever been identified and studied by human researchers, leaving the vast majority completely unknown to science. New species are being discovered all the time, hidden in soils, deep-sea vents, hot springs, and even inside other living creatures. The microbial realm is like an endless library of which we have read only a few pages, with countless mysteries still waiting to be revealed. As you rest and let your thoughts drift, consider the quiet wonder of a world so vast and so hidden, full of life we have yet to meet. Only a tiny fraction of microbes can be grown in laboratories for study. One of the great challenges in microbiology is that most microbes simply refuse to grow in laboratory conditions. They have evolved to thrive in very specific environments, and the artificial conditions of a petri dish or flask often fail to meet their particular needs. Scientists estimate that less than 1% of all microbial species can be cultured in the laboratory using standard methods, leaving the vast majority completely inaccessible to traditional study. This limitation has shaped our understanding of the microbial world for over a century, revealing only a small and biased sample of life's true diversity. New techniques are slowly changing this, allowing us to glimpse microbes that were once entirely invisible to science. The unseen world is far larger than what we can capture, a humbling reminder of how much remains beyond our reach. Metagenomics allows scientists to study microbial communities by analyzing their collective DNA. Metagenomics is a revolutionary approach that allows scientists to study entire communities of microbes without the need to grow them in the laboratory. Instead of isolating individual species, researchers collect samples from an environment and extract all the DNA present, then use powerful sequencing technology to read the genetic information of every microbe at once. This approach reveals the true diversity of microbial communities, including species that have never been seen or cultured before. Metagenomics has transformed our understanding of ecosystems, revealing complex webs of interaction and cooperation among countless microscopic organisms. It is like reading the diary of an entire community rather than interviewing one member at a time. Through this technique, the hidden life of soils, oceans, and even our own bodies is slowly coming into view. The Human Microbiome Project mapped the microbial communities living in and on our bodies. The Human Microbiome Project was a landmark scientific effort to map all the microbial communities living in and on the human body. Launched in 2007, it brought together researchers from around the world to catalog the bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other microbes that call us home. The project revealed that healthy humans carry thousands of different species, and that these communities vary greatly from person to person and even from one body site to another. The results have reshaped our understanding of health and disease, showing that many conditions are linked to changes in our microbial companions. The project also highlighted how much we still have to learn about the tiny organisms that share our lives every single day. Resting now, you carry a world within, mapped by science, but still full of quiet mystery. Each person's microbiome is influenced by diet, environment, and even the pets they live with. Your microbiome is shaped by a remarkable variety of factors, from the food you eat to the environment you live in, and even the animals that share your home. Diet is one of the most powerful influences, as different foods nourish different microbial species and shift the balance of your inner community over time. The places you spend your time, whether urban or rural, indoors or outdoors, also leave their mark on the microbes you carry along with you. Perhaps most surprising is the influence of pets, as living with a dog or cat introduces new microbes into your home and onto your very skin. These factors combine to make each person's microbiome unique, a living fingerprint shaped by the story of your life and surroundings. As you rest, know that your inner world reflects the world outside, quietly changing with every passing day. And from the science of discovery, we turn now to the future of our relationship with microbes. Fecal microbiota transplantation uses donated gut bacteria to treat certain infections. Fecal microbiota transplantation, often called FMT, is a medical procedure in which healthy gut bacteria are transferred from a donor to a patient in need. It may sound unusual, but this approach has proven remarkably effective for treating certain stubborn infections, particularly those caused by a dangerous bacterium called Clostridioides difficile. By restoring a healthy community of microbes to the gut, FMT can break the cycle of recurring infection and allow the patient to recover. The procedure has sparked new interest in the power of microbial communities to heal and protect us from disease. Researchers are now exploring whether similar approaches could help with other conditions linked to disrupted gut bacteria. It is a striking example of how science is learning to harness the invisible world of microbes for the benefit of human health. Probiotics are live microbes taken to improve health, though research on their benefits continues. Probiotics are live microbes, usually bacteria or yeasts, that are taken with the aim of improving health and supporting the balance of the gut microbiome. They are found in foods like yogurt and kefir, as well as in supplements sold in pharmacies and health shops around the world. The idea behind probiotics is that introducing beneficial microbes can help restore or maintain a healthy inner community, especially after illness or antibiotic treatment. Research on probiotics is ongoing, and while some strains have shown clear benefits for certain conditions, many claims remain uncertain or poorly supported by evidence. Scientists are working to understand which microbes are truly helpful, for whom, and under what circumstances they provide real benefit. For now, probiotics remain a fascinating area of study, a reminder of how much we are still learning about our microbial companions. Prebiotics are foods that nourish the beneficial bacteria already living in your gut. Prebiotics are a different approach to supporting the gut microbiome, focusing not on adding new microbes, but on nourishing the beneficial ones already living inside you. These are special types of fiber and compounds found in foods like onions, garlic, leeks, bananas, and whole grains, which pass through the digestive system largely unchanged until they reach the colon. There, they serve as food for your resident bacteria, encouraging the growth of species that produce helpful substances and support gut health. By eating prebiotic-rich foods, you are tending the garden of your inner world, helping the good microbes flourish without adding anything new. Research suggests that a diet rich in prebiotics can improve digestion, strengthen the immune system, and support overall well-being in gentle but meaningful ways. Resting now, you can nourish your inner garden simply by the choices you make each day. The future of medicine may involve personalized treatments based on your unique microbiome. The future of medicine may look very different from what we know today, shaped increasingly by our understanding of the microbiome and its role in health. Scientists envision a time when doctors will analyze your unique microbial community and use that information to tailor treatment specifically for you. Personalized microbiome medicine could help prevent disease, guide diet and lifestyle choices, and even determine which medications will work best for your body. Already, researchers are developing tests to predict how individuals will respond to certain treatments based on their gut bacteria. While much of this remains in the realm of research, the possibilities are inspiring and full of hope for gentler, more effective care. As you rest, imagine a future where the invisible world within you becomes a partner in your own healing and well-being. Microbes remind us that we are never truly alone, but always part of a living community. Perhaps the most profound lesson of the microbial world is that we are never truly alone, even when we feel most solitary in the stillness of the night. Trillions of microbes live within you and upon you, companions on every step of your journey through life. They digest your food, train your immune system, and influence your mood in ways we are only beginning to understand. Every breath you take draws in new microbial partners, and every surface you touch leaves and receives invisible visitors. Life on Earth is a web of connections, and you are woven into it at every level, from the largest ecosystems to the tiniest corners of your own body. As you drift toward rest, take comfort in the knowledge that you are part of a living community, never alone, always gently held by the invisible world of microbes that surrounds and sustains you through all your days. And now the quiet wonders of the microbial world begin to gently fade into the stillness of the night. From the ancient cyanobacteria that first breathed oxygen into our atmosphere to the trillions of companions that live within your gut, this sleep documentary has carried us through a universe hidden in plain sight. We have explored the extremophiles thriving in boiling vents and frozen wastes, the gut-brain connection that shapes how you feel, and the fermented foods that have nourished humanity for millennia. In this sleepy science journey, we have discovered that these facts to fall asleep to reveal a truth both humbling and comforting, that life, in its smallest forms, is everywhere, always working, always persisting. If these gentle facts have brought you peace tonight, consider subscribing to continue exploring with us. There are more wonders waiting, more quiet truths to discover. Each new sleeper who joins our community helps this channel grow, one curious soul at a time. And perhaps when you return, we will wander together through another corner of the universe that science has illuminated. Right now, as you listen, the microbes within you are at work. Your gut bacteria are digesting, producing vitamins and signals that ripple through your body. The bacteria on your skin are standing guard, quietly protecting you. Even the mitochondria in every cell, the descendants of ancient bacteria, are generating the energy that keeps your heart beating. You are a living ecosystem, a partnership billions of years in the making, and tonight, all these small lives rest alongside you. If your eyes feel heavy, let them close. Let your breath find its own rhythm, slow and steady, like the patient work of microbes breaking down and building up, cycle after cycle. Feel your shoulders soften, your jaw unclench, your hands grow still. The knowledge of tonight does not need to be held, only felt and then released. Let yourself drift now, carried by the quiet hum of life within. Tonight, as you rest, the microbial world continues its ancient work. In the soil outside, bacteria are recycling the day's fallen leaves. In the oceans, phytoplankton are photosynthesizing beneath the moonlit surface. In your own body, trillions of cells and their microbial partners are repairing, renewing, preparing you for tomorrow. You are a small, warm presence within this vast living planet, peacefully resting among the wonders. Sleep well, sweet dreams, and may you carry with you the quiet knowledge that you are never truly alone, for the smallest forms of life have always been with you and always will be. This has been Drowsy Discovery. Good night.